Hi, good afternoon. So again, thank you very much for the invitation. Today I will talk about knowing citizen science and the rules of knowing citizen science and citizen science in a national citizen science context in Germany, in which I happen to work at the moment. My name is Julie Mewes, and I'm currently working at the museum as a scientific coordinator and postdoctoral researcher for the citizen science contest called Oudheusden Citizen Science in der Stadt, which loosely translates to something like on your marks, so involves the movement, citizen science in your city. So as Sabina already mentioned, I have a background in social anthropology and STS, and beforehand made some experience studying the routines and daily knowledge practices in mainly in medical settings. But then in this project, I try to kind of transfer this focus on micro routines into the field of participatory methods. Additionally, I have an interest in research methods, so in case there's other fellow ethnographers in the room, please hit me up. We have a panel. I would like to I would like to invite you to for the upcoming East and West conference in Amsterdam. And today I will be talking about the Citizen Science Project, and I would actually like to start with a quick question. Has anyone ever taken part in the Citizen Science Project? 1, 2, 3 years. 4. And in what kind of role? You're a citizen scientist yourself? Yes. Or a researcher in the project? Or conducting meta research on it? Interesting. That would have been exactly my my reaction as well. What I was trying to say, or what I was intending with this question, is that there are obviously various ways to engage with citizen science. And today I would like to talk about some of these different modes of citizen science, or specifically the modes of knowing. There I'm deliberately borrowing from the title from an editorial by Kasperowski and Kullenberg for a special issue of the journal Citizen Science Studies back in 2019. I will also argue for more critical reflection on these modes of knowing, both in defining citizen science as a term, so how can citizen science be known, and as an epistemic practice, so citizen science in its activities. Based on coming to the structure of my talk, I would like to start with a short teaser concerning the relevance of the question, or undermining it. And then in the following, I will present my research perspective and research questions. So where do I depart from discipline-wise and question-wise? Introduce you to 2 stories of the origin of contemporary citizen science, or its 2 genealogies. I'm pretty sure some of you in the room are very aware of them, others might not, so we'll just shortly stop over there. Then I will start with a very particular interest I have developed over the last month on German research funding and its horrors, and also its recent interest in citizen science, which then will bring us to the case study I would like to talk about today of this National Citizen Science Contest as a science policy tool. Finally, we'll provide some preliminary reflections, more or less meaningful take-home message and outlook before opening the discussion I'm very much looking forward to. So that is the promised teaser. I haven't expected too much. So the short answer to the question, what is citizen science, is that kind of complicated. One would think the European Citizen Science Association would know, right? But a couple of days ago, they posted this on LinkedIn. I'm not sure whether all of you can read it, so I will read that loud again. In general, so what is citizen science? In general, it means the participation of the public in #science and #research. Here, key characteristics include citizens being actively involved in research, and there's a genuine science focus. However, citizen science is broad and ever-changing term, and there are many different definitions. When setting up or working on an initiative, we recommend that you define what citizen science is or means to you. End of quote. This recommendation, I think, is quite remarkable and leads to the question how in practice different actors, from stakeholders to funders and practitioners, shape this definition together, both in local context, but as well for the more mid to long term. Talking about the research perspective or the departing different, where this project departs from. The project touches on several discourses with obviously significant overlaps as well, or three bubbles if you want. It's a theory and methodology surrounding citizen science, often referred to as the science of citizen science. So this is what they would use as a self-labeling, with important citizen science stakeholders, handbooks, and more handbooks being published, and so on. Second bubble is not limited to, but science and technology studies, and or a subfield that would be called citizen science studies. And the third bubble encompasses citizen science as a practice as such. So that includes citizen science activities, but also supporting capacity and community building, as well as funding activities. I think it won't surprise many of you that there is a considerable and increasing interest in citizen science within SCS scholarship as well. I'm happy to discuss why that is later in the discussion as well. I think just as an introduction, I think it's important to differentiate on how STS approaches citizen science. First, it does so as an analytical category. Researchers who are interested in how non-experts participate in participatory research use the term citizen science broadly, encompassing all sorts of participatory research that may or may not be labeled as citizen science by the involved actors. It is different than the second way to approach citizen science as an actors category. There, researchers focus on the recent increase in activities that policymakers, scientists, and other practitioners explicitly refer to as citizen science. So this latter group of researchers treats citizen science as an actors category, aiming to understand why it's so prominent and what it means to the people involved, as Egenis recently described it in the forthcoming chapter on STS and citizen science. I would locate my research in this category. And of course, obviously, and also increasingly, there's STS researchers who act as citizen science practitioners themselves. Yet another role or overlap of these two disciplines or this approaches. There's something about the connection on Zoom. I can't ignore it. Sorry. Well, wait. I think it will take 1 minute. Right? Yeah. It looks like it just the Wi-Fi or what? I don't know. I'm connected to the Wi-Fi of the guest. Yeah, actually, it's quite stable. Okay.
We can hear you fine, and we from Zoom everything is fine. We can see you and we can hear you well.
Excellent. So the slides.
Yeah, no issues with Zoom. It's all good.
The slides are up here, so those are other ideas. I can we just see it looking here? No,
so the problem is now the people. So Carla, can you see the slides being shared?
No, now we don't.
No, yeah, that's because the internet's dropped out. Let me just turn the internet on and off again. I don't know if you can hotspot to my phone.
But it was perfect up until the time when you made the pause. It was all going fine.
We're very lucky.
You wanna? It's fine, where's the flashlight? And you should be like, oh, that's changing it back to this. It's fine. Oh no, it's
fine. We're watching the telly. And he's saying it's fine. I watched the thing about the wow.
we have his German.
Oh, right.
University. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was 20 years long, but it's my yeah, but I feel like one of the parts of my body. Or it should be able to. Yeah.
Yeah, it's actually really motivating.
Yeah. My favorite martial arts.
Sorry, on Zoom, we're seeing the presenter's notes, not the full presentation mode. Perfect, all good. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks so much for your attention. Yeah, sorry about that. And coming to my next slide, which brings me to the research project, research questions of the entire project and the questions I would like to focus on today. So today I'd like to focus on two questions. How is citizen science defined, discussed, contested, and further developed within the European citizen science community, very much focusing on Germany though. You see that's already questions, so two of them to talk about today. Second one is which citizen science definitions underlying values, or to borrow a notion I read in a recent paper of Rowe's epistemic values, and related modes of knowing are promoted in and enabled through the Aufklärungsplätze contest. Later on, just to give you the full picture, and based on qualitative interview data with the contestants and final winning projects, I intend to also explore the other two questions for maybe a research article the next month. What are the perspectives on citizen science and its meaning for the contestants? And the very broad scaling up questions in what potential new understandings of science, citizenship, and society arise through this promoted mode of citizen science within the contest as a science policy tool. I said, if I got it right, not everyone is a citizen science practitioner in the room, not everyone is thinking about citizen science on a daily basis. I think it's fair to start with a short background story. And well, I think what one or another already might have heard of is that the history of science has been significantly shaped by the contribution of amateurs. And in the 19th century, science transformed from a field where it was rare for people to be paid to pursue it. So imagine Charles Darwin, amateur, to a time where scientists became a profession as such, and usually also comes with the expectation of a salary. So only then, actually, in this process of professionalization, the distinction between professional and uncredentialed scientists became to make sense. In introductory texts on citizen science, so the handbooks I mentioned, for instance, but also other short intros. The term's origin is often described as having two independent but simultaneously emerging uses in research, so two forms of genealogies. We are in the mid-90s, and US ornithologist Rick Bonney defines citizen science as a form of public participation in scientific activity, specifically data gathering by actors. Citizen science involves enlisting the public to collect large quantities of data across various habitats and locations over extended periods of time. This is something I will refer to later on as the data-driven approach. So one could argue this term. Simultaneously in the same year, but on another side of the Atlantic, British Innovation and SDS scholar Alan Irvin defines citizen science for granting the need to open up science and science policy processes to the public. He focuses on the role of citizen science as relevant stakeholders in informed decision-making processes and citizen-led approaches to scientific knowledge production. So we have the data-driven, citizen-led approach. To me, it's quite fascinating that two different approaches to the meaning or the key values of citizen science are still actively referred to in the community. Also, it's been 30 years. And mainstreaming attempts, which would have silenced one or the other, have been somewhat unsuccessful until now. Over the last decade, the community has grown rapidly and has pluralized considerably in terms of actors, areas of research, and issues of both public and scientific interest. There's also growing recognition of the scientific, social, and political significance of citizen science in Europe. And in Germany, the concept of citizen science, also in the English use, the German Bürgerwissenschaften, is particularly well established and recognized publicly. So it could happen that you would read a journal and a newspaper, and they wouldn't even bother to explain the term anymore. So we're talking this level of being known, or well, it's legal. It's quite established. Traditionally, most citizen science activities were found in fields such as biodiversity research, but also geography and astronomy. Now the term citizen science is truly used across all fields really, and it meant to label participatory research activities across disciplines from the arts and humanities to medicine and the social science. Though for me, it's important to mention that all these different disciplines come with their own traditions of conducting participatory research, which we don't have the time to explore all of them, but still, I think it's also, this is quite remarkable of an accomplishment from a citizen science perspective to be able to relabel other participatory research approaches as citizen science. Maybe because of the success, the growing numbers, there are voices, particularly in this science of citizen science community, advocating for a clear definition because of this, because they imagine that a standardized definition is considered to enable the even more successful promotion of citizen science to the public, policymakers, and important potential funding bodies. If these actors, so they argue, aren't aware of what citizen science is, what it isn't, and what knowledge it can produce, they're less likely to engage in it, label their own activity as such, or join the community, or provide funding. At the same time, the standardized definition is considered as a risk, possibly excluding research activities from citizen science. I'll explain this to you. If you define something, this also includes others who aren't considered as citizen science anymore, which is quite a big deal for a community which started as a very inclusive, engaging research approach. So obviously it's not in their interest to act as an exclusive stakeholder. So while it's important for the citizen science community and the definition of citizen science to remain open to new actors and the activities to further growth, not all citizen science activities actively promote it as such a democratizing and participatory research approach as other parts of the community would wish for. Quite to the contrary, studies consistently show, a lot of them would locate themselves in STS research also, that the contributory participation remains to be the most common approach to use and to engage citizen scientists in citizen science activities. This means that they mainly assemble data rather than participating in setting research objectives and questions, analyze, communicate, or publish data. So they are allowed, or participation is possible, but to a very limited extent or a very limited period of time in the entire research process. So this also points towards a gap between the high value given to democratized knowledge production and political emancipation, which is thought to come with it, and the knowledge practices enacted under the label of citizen science and contemporary European within the European citizen science community. Sorry, I thought I might have managed already. Yes, now. As previously mentioned, the citizen science is expanding rapidly, and I thought I will demonstrate that with a lot of logos, and maybe show you around a little as well what they stand for. So I think this can be illustrated quite nicely by the existence of national networks and international associations such as the EXA, which was cited earlier already, the European Citizen Science Association, but also three associations in the German-speaking world. Also in larger EU-funded projects as European Citizen Science, or very prominent citizen science research units as the Citizen Science Lab at the University of Leiden University, or the Extreme Citizen Science Research Group at UCL. Also, of course, I had to mention natural history museums. And also due to the strong historical link between citizen science and biodiversity research, as well as the high number of citizen science activities in this field up to date, natural history museums such as those in Paris, London, or Berlin are key stakeholders in the European citizen science community. All three museums have their own research or citizen science research units that both practice and conduct research on citizen science. And yeah, for example, Paris has recently established an citizen professorship dedicated to citizen science. So the standardization, disciplinization is really taking, is increasing. Okay. But I forgot to mention about the German citizen science platform, Naturkunde, which is also located at the museum. They currently list over 250 active citizen science projects in Germany alone, just to give you some numbers. So that's not so much of a thing for me usually because of course it's a true, but 250, it's quite a thing. Coming to my favorite topic, the German government's current national research strategy includes citizen science as an approach to integrate civil society perspectives more strongly into research. Back in 2021 after the last election. And this research strategy was more or less recently re-emphasized last summer by the Federal Ministry of Education and Research, the BMBF, in their so-called participation strategy for the research sector. So that's the one we're talking. Which includes a visualization of participation in research. Obviously, you're not meant to understand what is written there because most of it is in German. What I wanted to show you is that the illustration demonstrates that citizen science, up there, there's the German term Bürgerwissenschaften, sorry, is considered a part of this pie, right? And it's also shown and illustrated distinguished from other fields such as public engagement science, open science, transdisciplinary research, or participatory science communication. So this illustration and also the entire report, which I'm sparing you for today, suggests that the stakeholders behind citizen science of the citizen science community in Germany have been very successful presenting their approach as a relevant actor within this field of participatory research. The report also indicates that citizen science performed well in terms of funding. 10 years ago, the BMBF introduced a separate funding area and also launched two major funding lines worth 15 million euros combined in 2016 and 21. And additionally, BMBF funds citizen science projects through its other specialist departments. So it's a project on genetics. The citizen science project could also apply in the specialist department. During the public release event of said strategy last summer, the BMBF announced an additional opening of a new funding line, which was expected to be launched this year. Coming to my empirical case study for today. In the appendix section, the report also introduced the readers, and I'm doing it now to you, today's case study. It states that the aim of the contest of die Plätze Citizen Science in deiner Stadt, organized by Wissenschaft und Dialog and the Naturkunde Berlin, is to promote and enable citizen science as a locally embedded participatory research approach for long-term engagement. The aim of the BMBF-funded project is to increase awareness of the transformative potential of citizen science and promote structural measures for local citizen science activities. The project is specifically aimed at local actors from academic institutions, civil society, and public administration, all of which are supposed to apply together. So, which is also quite specific as funding money. The project with this kind of acts as an interesting hybrid, I would say, between a BMBF-funded project, receiving funding, but also funding, it's called smaller scale, funding body, awarding 15 finalists with a smaller seed funding award and 6 citizen science projects across Germany with a total of 50,000 euros each for a project duration of 1 year. To give my voice a little break, but also to show you some nice pictures, I thought it would be nice, and I think we have the time to show you a short promotional video from last year, which was meant to attract applications for the second round of the contest. It's about a minute 20 long or so. It's in German, you're not supposed to understand what it says, but I'll set on the AI translation into German, into English, which will or will not help. Yes, I hope it's on. Is it there? Oh, I don't. Wait. Just a second.
Yeah, this is gonna be tricky.
The queue, usually it's in here, the settings. Yes.
Oh, there it is. Oh, come back. Why?
I'm very happy to share the link later with you, so you can check out this amazing AI translation. And now we're just gonna look at the pictures I would suggest. But it's, and I can make some
Oh, now it's in the German.
So if I have the audio, then.
It's kind of complicated.
Okay.
The audio will be cool.
So basically, it talks to the general public or citizen scientists, citizens to be able to engage in research and how the contest makes this possible. And here it describes the different actors who come together. So the researchers, the administration, and the civil society. And there are some flying applications to the contest. This is the expert jury. They are first choosing 10 finalists for the first round, which get a very small seed fund in order to develop a bigger application in order to then apply for the 50,000 euro grant. You have already seen the faces of the jury, and with this I would like to start with a document analysis, for which I reviewed the briefing document of the evaluation criteria used by the expert jury to select the 3 winners each year, the 2 years. So the briefing document consists of 4 main evaluation criteria, each weighing about exactly 20%, with an additional 20% determined by a public vote via social media that lasted several weeks, in which the projects were supposed to engage with their community, activate people to get the vote to them, mainly via social media, their respective social media accounts. In their full application, projects were asked to explain how they aim to increase visibility through public communication and events, enable people to participate, to create as low barriers as possible for participation, oblige to transparency in terms of generated data that's used, and provide methodical or technical support and tools for citizen science, for citizens to participate. That means so nobody should be stopped to, I don't know, participate in birding activity if they don't have the right tools for them for this to do so. Thirdly, the applications were meant to illustrate how they would improve local citizen science structures and networks in the long term, as I already marked with my voice. The word local will come up later again. And finally, the 4th evaluation criteria is that the project is meant to have a citizen science character. This is then described as being based on scientific question that can be answered with the help of citizen science, so method appropriateness, contributing to an overarching area of research, so field of use to science maybe, and demonstrating appropriate scientific methods. So not only appropriate citizen science, but also from an academic point of view. Note, this criterion doesn't, however, mention scientific discovery or research excellence or other achievements or markers for measurements usually appearing in other research funding lines. So today I will focus on the first and the third criteria, beginning with the potential for the visibility of citizen science, which in my translation reads in parts as follows. Citizen science is presented as a productive approach for urban society and is clearly recognizable as a focus of participatory actions. In addition to the target groups of the participatory activities, the local population is also informed about the research activities and citizen science as a research approach. This can be achieved through public events as part of the public relations work. So I think it's I want to stress this again. It's important to note that 20% of the assessment is based on jury evaluation of the proposed public relations work. Public relations for citizen science as research approach and the project activities. So you're talking 10% promotion work or public relations work for citizen science approach, and another for the project activities as such. So as well, and this was stressed in the evaluation, in the criteria, the quality of outreach to the local population beyond the immediate target group. So in addition to the public voting I mentioned earlier via social media, 40% of the evaluation is based on science communication rather than, which could be research activity or other levels of participation or whatnot. The third criterion, the structural potential of the project reads as follows. The concept involves relevant actors from the local or regional context which complement each other in the project and reflect the multi-perspectivity of the research question. These can be established citizen science actors or thematically appropriate actors with little or no experience in the field of citizen science. The concept specifies the way in which the knowledge generated in citizen science activities is linked to structures and processes within the local environment, or it's potentially applicable to them. Regional and local support structures for citizen science are mapped, and specific measures are described as how these are further developed. The concept has an open networking character, both within the duration of the project and beyond. 55 euros on zero duration. I want to draw your attention to three important aspects in this part of the briefing. The emphasis on the project's local embeddedness, the importance of experience and knowledge, or their specific definition of such, and the temporal aspect. The context aims to promote citizen science within local networks or environments. This is quite unique aspect that sets it apart from typical research funding, which generally aims to produce generalizable, applicable, and relevant knowledge, new knowledge at a national or global level. The objective is to involve individuals, both experienced actors and newcomers to citizen science. This approach, in my assessment, differs from conventional funding lines, which often prioritize the expertise that project actors already possess and would bring into the project, believing it to be actually the foundation for a successful project. It is important to note that new knowledge, which appears very often in the very different, very various definitions of citizen science as the main aim, is not mentioned in relation to knowledge in the entire briefing document. Therefore, I argue the primary focus of funding is not on generating new and innovative ideas or scientific discoveries, which are crucial to major research funding lines. Additionally, the third aspect concerns the long-term impact of the project, which is expected to extend beyond its scheduled duration of a year. While other funding bodies require research outcomes to have a lasting impact beyond the project's immediate duration, this briefing emphasizes the long-term impact on the actors and their networks, without specifying what this could mean, highlighting social and societal impacts rather than scientific ones. So that said, what expects matching all the, we had 150 applicants and applications in total. What is expected of the 6 winning projects during the 1-year research project duration? The expected activities are presented as funding principles and are divided into 4 elements: qualification, network building, support, and communication. The projects are expected to attend the awards ceremony and subsequent 1.5-day workshop. They should also participate in additional online workshops about science communication, data management, and volunteer management. Furthermore, they are asked to attend and promote their projects and the contest during the annual Citizen Science Forum, which is the national Citizen Science Conference in Germany, which is another 3-day event. Additionally, they were encouraged to produce a short movie about the project, and that you can be seen on YouTube, and 3 blog posts for the contest website. They were interviewed multiple times by both the science communication team of the project and the research team. Finally, they have to submit a written report and a finance report. With these activities, we keep them quite busy, but also, and this is the point of this slide, the contest doesn't stop with the application process and the search for the right projects and the promotion of their mode of citizen science, but also continues to actively promote its understanding of citizen science to the award winners throughout the whole duration of the project. This is already one of my last slides. So I'd like to come to some preliminary reflections. Auf die Plätze advocates for participation at the local level for an extended period of time. It calls for the inclusion of experimental and experiential forms of knowledge, a wide range of actors and perspectives. In addition, science communication and outreach, as well as social media and online visibility, are considered crucial to the success of citizen science or a citizen science project. Winners are expected not only to promote their projects as such, but also to act as local stakeholders or ambassadors of citizen science as a research approach within the German research community and broader public. While the contest emphasizes the importance of meaningfulness to local communities, the transformative potential for participating citizens as political subjects, other political or policy impacts, or the democratizing effect of broadened publication in science and research are not the focus of this contest. I end my presentation with a tentative conclusion, or what I boldly state as a take-home message. Citizen science has been and is a very successful social movement that is attracting more and more stakeholders and practitioners worldwide. However, many different goals, research questions, and knowledge practices, as well as levels of participation of knowing subjects and underlying values are promoted under the label of citizen science. 2 conceptualizations of citizen science as a mode of knowledge acquisition have been highly influential in the development of the field, and its understanding as a form of crowdsourcing data collection, data-driven, or citizen-led research focused on redistributing decision-making power to set research agendas. In the German context, the National Citizen Science Contest of die Plätze, Citizen Science einer Stadt, which is the first national citizen science contest of this size, promotes that, well, not the first of its kind, promotes what it is perhaps a third mode, emphasizing media output and increased visibility rather than the generation of meaningful data for activism and political policy change on the one hand, or a focus on advancing scientific knowledge, unique or large data sets, or academic excellence, however you define that, on the other. My argument is that much of the experimental playfulness and emancipatory, deliberative, and transformative potential associated with citizen-led modes of citizen science is missing or made absent in this mode. For the citizen science community in Germany, this contest showcases communication-driven projects as the best practice example and the funding birthday projects. This is a high price to pay for citizen science as a social movement that claims to value transformative modes of participation and the democratization of knowledge acquisition through citizen engagement and research. On the other hand, the contest provides a fascinating opportunity to explore the relationship between research funding, stakeholder engagement, and scientific community building, and how these actors together shape the knowledge practices that dominate citizen science as a research approach and its activities, so epistemics and practice. Over the next few months, I hope to add another layer to this analysis, invite other perspectives, the subjective meanings of knowledge practices and epistemologies of the winning projects. And if we have the time, I would like to end with an epilogue. Is that fine for another slide? Or, yeah, okay, not, yeah, okay, excellent. So as an epilogue, I would like to mention 3 new developments pointing towards another twist regarding the story of citizen science. Maybe you might not, sure. Last summer, the US-based Citizen Science Association, so their national association, announced a name change. The Association for Advancing Participatory Sciences explained their decision to drop the label citizen science on their website as follows. Okay. Primarily, but not exclusively in the US, concerns include A, geopolitics and the utility of citizens to divide rather than unite. B, limited misunderstandings of citizen science as solely scientist-driven research, or C, limited misunderstandings of citizen science as solely education or outreach. This cultural context has become limiting not only to volunteer participants, but also limits potential partnerships or collaborations, funding opportunities. There they include in brackets that several US federal agencies have turned away from the term, and affiliations as well as collaborations, and approach. As you can imagine, the European citizen science community was not amused about this news. Second news, meanwhile in Germany, a new research association was formed with strong support by the BNDF, so industry. The Gesellschaft für transdisziplinäre und partizipative Forschung e.V. is an association which aims to unite transdisciplinary and participatory research approaches under one umbrella, which might be seen as a sign towards reducing the influence of citizen science as a distinctive research approach in the future. Last but not least, the BNBF has also cancelled the major funding scheme for a participatory research project that it announced last summer when publishing this participatory research strategy I talked about earlier. And additionally, it will not decided to not prolong the funding of the citizen science contest. I wouldn't reach, in terms of science policy, I wouldn't read too much into it, since this is a time of harsh financial cuts in all federal ministries in Germany, and I'm sure across Europe in general. However, this might be read as a sign that participatory research doesn't seem to be considered as the top priority at the moment. On this bright note, I would like to thank you very much for your attention, and I would like to invite you to discuss the past, present, or potential future of citizen science. With you.